everybody, and welcome back to my channel. This is the second session when I'm trying to teach you English word by word, trying to make English learning very easy for you so that when you pronounce those words, they just come out. So let us start this second session when we are trying to get English word by word. So let me first review what we already did in the last session, the first session of this particular series. So what we tried to learn was what is a syllable. So syllable is something that when we pronounce something, every time we take a breath, we form a syllable. Then we talked about what is the difference between phonetics and phonology. Phonetics is when we talk about the sounds of human speech sounds in general. But when we talk about a particular language, for instance English, then we call it phonology. General is phonetics and particular is phonology. We also talked about the difference between stress and accent and the idea of shifting stress. We talked about how accent has some geographical connotations. And we also talked about how in a particular word, if we keep on adding suffixes, there might be a change in the stress. That is the shifting stress. And of course, we also learned that something like whenever we talk about English, the accent or the stress on a particular syllable is always fixed, whether you use that particular word in a sentence or in isolation. So therefore, if you really have to learn in a manner, you want to talk English in a manner in which you're intelligible to the native speakers and you're talking perfect English, you need to remember the fixed stress syllables. Alright, so we also learned another thing, that whenever we keep on adding some suffixes, the suffix itself will not take any stress. So now let us go on further and try to analyze the English language again word by word. So now let us remember a few points. The first thing is English is a time-stressed language. That is, whenever we have some words that form a sentence, the language itself adjusts the number of stressed and unstressed syllables. We are going to do this particular thing in detail when we'll go on to the sentence level and then we'll talk about the intonation. In English, some syllables are longer and some shorter because some of the syllables use diphthongs like ia, ea, and some of them use only vowels. Knowing which syllable is stressed is important because it might change the meaning of homographs. Now let us talk about what homographs are. Just to give you an idea, words with the same spelling but having more than one meaning are known as homographs. Now, why am I trying to introduce some words to you which may seem very unfamiliar, or some of you might have already heard a lot about it, like something called homonyms and homographs. What are they actually, and what are the differences between the two? Now let us look at it properly. Say for instance, when we talk about homonyms, what are they? These refer to two or more words that share the same pronunciation but they have different meaning. And further, they may or may not share the same spelling. Like for instance, they might have the same pronunciations but the spellings might be different and the meanings might also be different. But when we talk about homographs, what are homographs? They are words that share the same spelling but they may or may not share the same pronunciation and the meanings change whenever we talk about the stress change. Why we are now trying to deal with words one by one, and therefore when we talk about words one by one, we need to realize that there might be some words when you change the stress, the meaning changes. Like if I tell addict, he is an addict. So what am I doing? I'm putting the stress on a and not dict. But if I tell he is addicted to drugs, so I'm shifting the stress from add to dict. So finally what I'm trying to say is that there are some words, they have double usage. That means the same spelling is there, but the moment you shift the stress, the meaning changes. There might be change in the word class. Now what do I mean by word class? That is, there might be a change in, say for instance, from verb to a noun. Now, why actually do we really need to know that? Because whenever we are talking, like say if I tell he is an addict, The moment the word an is there, the article an is there, automatically the word that follows, addict, becomes a noun. So if there are some words where we can use both as a noun and as a verb, we just need to remember a very simple word, a very simple mean, or in fact we can tell it's a very simple rule, that the first syllable will be stressed and we tell he is an addict. So if that is the case, this will become a noun. But if I have to tell he is addicted to drugs, what am I doing? I'm stressing the second syllable. So whenever it's a verb, you have to stress the second syllable. But I cannot say he is addicted to drugs. That is completely wrong. It will give you a wrong impression that you are not very, very efficient in the use of the language. So it's very important that you realize which words are homonyms and which words are homographs. You do not need to realize that you do not need to really remember the word homonym and homograph, but you should be aware that there are words which when pronounced differently give you different meanings. So I just wanted to give you some examples of homonyms, like say for instance TO2, TWO2 and TOO2. They are completely different words, but all of them pronunciation is same too. So they are homonyms. But when we have words like addict and addict, as I said to you now, the pronunciation is different. The meaning is different. Spelling is same again, but here the spellings are different. So let us make it more complex now. I'll show you some more there. We have something called homophones also. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what these words actually are and how frequently we use them in our lives. So let us now try to deal in detail that the word homo is common for all of it. So it's homograph, it's a homophone, and it's a homonym. Now the word homo means same. So we can say that when we talk about this, that the end of this particular words, they will give us their different or distinctive meaning. So here it's homograph, graph, phones and names. The ends will tell us what these words actually mean. So now say when we talk about homograph, the word graph, we tell graph, anyone will know it's a drawing or a writing. So we need to remember homographs are words that are spelled the same. The spelling is the same. But however, what happens is that the spelling is the same, but if they're pronounced differently, then they are homographs. Like I said, addict, addict, or addict is a noun, addict is a verb, right? Or we say contract, contract. So the same spelling is there, meanings differ the moment we change the stress. Therefore, to make it more complex, it's heteronyms but the word homo itself says the same. Okay, now let us talk about the other thing which are known as homonyms. Nym comes from the word, it means name, and hence, so we need to remember that they are spelled the same and they are pronounced the same, but they are different in meaning. But what are homophones? Now when we talk about homophones, the phone word itself, it gives you an idea, it's something related to the sound, and hence they are pronounced the same. So homophones are words which have the same pronunciation but they mean different things, like the word flower, flour, and then flour is flour, or what we call maida in Assamese. So what I'm trying to say is that it's all about the beautiful harmony between words and all about the differences in everything that we say, how we pronounce makes the difference. So let me try to bring you out of all these there and try to really jump into the whole situation of trying to use words there in our lives. And the good thing here is that you really do not need to know actually what are the definitions of these words, homonyms, homographs or whatever, but we really need to get an idea of how we can understand the meaning of a word from the context that particular word is in. Now let us try to check it out. Here for instance, he went to the fair. He went to the fair. And she is very fair. The word F-A-I-R and F-A-I-R are both used. They have the same spelling, But the moment you look at the context, you come to know the meaning is different. One is talking about a particular place, and the next one is talking about the fair skin. Let's talk about another sentence there. The air is polluted. The air, A-I-R, is polluted, and he is the air. Both of them have different spellings, but when we talk about pronouncing it, they seem or fall same into the ear. Whenever somebody listens to it, air, H-E-I-R is air, and then A-I-R is also air. Now, how they are used in a sentence will give you the idea which is the word being meant. Now, I just wanted to just remind something here. If you look at it, now we need to realize, if you look at this particular sentence, I just wanted to tell you, just so that when you really use that word, you are so conscious about it to use it properly, it really comes out very, very good to the ears. Now, if I say the air is polluted, we need to remember the R sound, the R sound is not pronounced in English unless there is a vowel after it. So if the air is polluted, the R will be pronounced here because there is an I here, which is the vowel. But if it is followed at the end, like for instance, I have a car, C-A-R, car, there's end, we have a full stop there, the R is not pronounced. Here also just need to remember, if the R is followed by a vowel, then only it is pronounced. Therefore, it is the air is polluted. So there is a R sound coming in. Secondly, here we have, this is he is the air. Now, because it is at the end of the sentence, the R is not pronounced at all. Now, so again, one more sentence just to give you an idea. I knew he was right. He was right is R-I-G-H-T. So we know what is the meaning, right and wrong. But if I wanted him to write a poem, now both these words have the same pronunciation but different spellings. But when we are listening to somebody talking or using these words, we get an idea of what that particular person means by looking at the context or where this particular word is being used. Now let us move on now. So we just need to, before that, I just want to tell you that the same spelling, same pronunciation, now there's a difference in meaning because of the context. So they are all known as homonyms. So now let us talk about a few words, or try to analyze a few words, how there is a change in the stress position the moment it becomes a noun. The N is for noun and V is for verb, and the meaning will also change. The same word, same spelling, but change in the shift in the stress position will change the meaning. Like here, how do you pronounce it? It's subject, so it's a noun. He is the subject of today's discussion. If I tell he is subjected to something, right? So his ject is strong, it's a verb. Similarly here, he came and took out the refuse, right? So that's a garbage, it's a noun. But he refused to go there. So that's a verb here. So what we have done, just shifted the stress from re to fuse. Similarly here, invalid. That means he is an invalid. So he has problems in moving around. But if I tell invalid, that means this is invalid passport, means it is useless. Similarly again, entrance means the entry, just like we have entry and exit. But entrance is hypnotized. So it's like, somebody is like really hypnotized with your personality. So that is how it goes. Let us go for the next words. Now let us actually come to the second syllable being stressed. Some words which you need to really practice so that you really get an idea of how they are pronounced, and when you really use them in your sentences, you really use them with the accent on the second syllable. Like, please repeat after me just like you repeated in the earlier chapter, earlier session. So now we are moving on to the stress or the accent on the second syllable. So repeat after me. Advantage, adventure, behavior. For those who know to read phonetics, you can just read here. It's given here exactly as I'm telling it. It's already. So we don't pronounce the L there. We don't tell already, already. The way it goes is already. It's O, long vowel. Condition. Consider. However, this the k sound will not be told very strongly. If you remember from my last session, I had told you something like this, the idea of aspiration. What is aspiration? Extra breath force. Whenever in English we have the words which have an accent on the p sound or t sound or k sound, like particular, king, p, t, k, these sounds, these phonemes, or in fact whenever those letters of the alphabets are there, where we need to tell that particular syllable strongly, they will have an extra breath force. So we don't tell pot or ko, we tell pa and a t and a k. But we just need to remember that that particular syllable should have accent or stress, then only it will be aspirated or told with extra breath force. So here I have given a few words here. In fact, now only we are face to face with one particular word, which though it has the k sound, the k sound syllable is not told strongly because it is not told strongly. Therefore, we cannot tell k. We tell k, not k, just like you're coughing. Let's come and focus here. So look at this particular word, C-O-N. I'm not talking about the spelling, I'm talking about the pronunciation k. K-N, k. But it is not k, it's just k because it does not have the stress mark before it. Unlike D, D has a stress mark. So it's condition. Similarly here, consider. Consider. Okay, so let's repeat. So you are going to repeat after me. So we start here. Condition, consider, ambition, it's ambition, committee, another, artistic, attention. All right. So there's some more words with a stress on the accent of the second syllable. Decision. The j sound, bring the j sound there. It's a French derivative word, or in fact we borrowed this word from the French language. Wherever the j sound is there, we need to remember those words are actually borrowed from the French language, and it's decision. Repeat after me. Department. So the p is there, p becomes p, and it's told with aspiration, extra breath force because the stress mark is there. Department. Essential. Tobacco. Tobacco. Expensive. Remember. Together. Distinguish. Distinguish. Relation. Familiar. Now, it's a very interesting topic. In fact, the differences in spelling between American and British, and even in pronunciation, American and British English here. This word, example, it's a very different sort of a word because there are two variants. One is the British English and the other is American. And interestingly, the two words, the pronunciation of the same word, there are two ways of pronouncing it. So we tell when we are talking about British English, we pronounce it example. But when we tell American, it's example. Za will become ze. Direction. Direction. So today what I tried to do was to give some examples of words with the accent or the stress on the second syllable. And I also tried to show you that there are some words or disyllabic words, two syllables, where if we shift the stress, the meaning itself changes, yet they might have the same spelling. Now, I would like to end this particular session with some three-syllable words with the accent on the third syllable. And this in fact will lead us to our next session. Before that, let us try and concentrate on the third syllable which gets the stress. So now these are words with three syllables, and the accent, if we count from the right hand side, on the third syllable. So it's every day. Repeat after me. Every day. Cigarette. Cigarette. Volunteer. Volunteer. So here the t sound is there, and it has the accent mark or the stress mark, and hence we are telling with the not just t, we're telling t with extra breath force. Guarantee. Here, disagree. Engineer. Engineer. Picturesque. Afternoon. So we've come to the end of the session 2, and now we are ready to move on when we will try to acquire or understand how those words are pronounced. Any word in English is pronounced based on the word endings. And it's a common rule for everyone. All the words, those words that end, the endings of the words will help you determine which particular syllable is accented, which will make your lives much easier. So look forward to the third session with me, Dr. Papori Barooah, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a fun day.